Selfish parents used me to pay off debts and then kicked me out. I left, but they forgot that I was paying my sisters, so I stopped paying her rent to spite them, and now parents. It all started when my lease was almost up and I couldn't find a decent place to live to save my life. The rental market was insane, and every place I looked at was either ridiculously overpriced or a total dump. I didn't want to rush into signing a lease only to regret it later, so I figured I needed a temporary solution. My parents called me one night while I was venting to my buddy about my situation, and they offered me a place to crash while I sorted things out. I was reluctant, to say the least. Living with them wasn't exactly part of the plan. Our relationship was complicated. But they insisted, saying they had plenty of room and that it would save me from burning money on a hotel or short-term rental. Reluctantly, I agreed. I figured it would only be for a few weeks, a month at the most. The day I moved in, I didn't even unpack all my stuff. Most of my stuff stayed in the car because I knew in the back of my mind that this wasn't a long-term arrangement. It wasn't comfortable, but it was better than wasting money. When I walked in the door, my mom gave me a big hug and my dad patted me on the back like we were the perfect family. It almost made me forget how tense things had been between us over the years. It wasn't terrible at first. They cooked for me, made small talk over dinner, and even acted genuinely interested in my apartment search. I thought maybe I'd been too hard on them, that they were trying to make up for the past. But then, just a few days in, the little favors started. It started innocently enough. My mom needed $50 for groceries because she left her wallet at home while shopping. My dad needed $100 to cover a bill he swore he'd pay me back the next day. I didn't think much of it at the time. They'd helped me out when I was younger, right? I owed them a little, didn't I? But soon the requests got bigger. They told me about some unexpected medical expenses. The insurance didn't cover this part, my mother said. That was $2,000 gone. Then it was the car, a major repair they couldn't put off. Another $1,500. And then the big one, $10,000 for emergency repairs to the house. The roof could fall in any day, my dad said. At this point, I began to feel like a walking ATM. Every time I thought it was the last request, something else came up. The thing was, they weren't just asking, they were framing it as if they were doing me a favor by letting me stay with them, so the least I could do was help out. It was subtle, but effective. Weeks went by and I hadn't saved a dime. If anything, I was hemorrhaging money faster than when I was renting. By the 5th week, I couldn't take it anymore. I told them we had to talk. I planned to be calm about it, to lay it all out and make them see how unfair this whole arrangement had become. But as soon as I brought it up, all hell broke loose. The conversation got out of hand almost immediately. I started by saying that I felt like I was being taken advantage of, but before I could finish, my dad jumped in. Taken advantage of? Are you serious? You're living here for free. Do you think that comes with no strings attached? We help you, so you help us. It's as simple as that. My mother also chimed in. You're being selfish. We paid for everything when you were little. Do you think raising you was free? Now that we need a little help, you're crying about it. I stared at her in disbelief. I was 6 years old. You're really bringing this up like I owe you for being my parents? That's when my dad snapped. You know what? If you don't like it here, leave. Get out. You think we let you stay here for nothing? That's not the way the world works. It was like a switch went off in my head. All the guilt they'd managed to pile on me over the years, all the manipulation, it just snapped. I didn't shout back. I didn't argue. I just said, fine. I walked into the room they'd given me, packed up the few things I'd actually brought into the house, and walked out. My mom tried to guilt me one last time as I was leaving. Don't be so dramatic. You have to respect your elders. I didn't even turn around. Respect works both ways, I said and walked out the door. I drove away feeling angrier than I'd ever been. I didn't just feel used, I felt betrayed. They'd offered me a place to stay as if they were helping me, but all they wanted to do was drain my savings to solve their problems. As I drove back to my storage unit to get the rest of my stuff, a thought hit me like a truck: my sister, Karen. I'd been paying her rent for the past 2 years. She and her 5 children had fallen on hard times. Her husband was an alcoholic who only came home when he had to show up or pretend to care. So I'd stepped in and covered her apartment so she and the kids wouldn't end up on the streets. But now, after what my parents had pulled, I was done. If they thought I was an endless source of money, they had another thing coming. I called Karen that night. "Hey, just a heads up, I can't pay your rent anymore." Surprisingly, she didn't sound mad. Just tired. "I understand," she said. "I know it's been hard on you too." It wasn't a long conversation, but it ended on a good note. At least Karen didn't make me feel guilty the way my parents had. A few weeks passed, and I tried to move on. I found a short-term rental and focused on my work, but I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that karma was about to pay me a visit. Sure enough, I got a call from Karen one night. "They kicked us out," she said. "Who?" "Mom and Dad. They told me to come live with them because I couldn't pay the rent, and now they say we're ruining their house and we have to leave." I couldn't help but laugh. "Wait, you and the kids are staying with them right now?" "Yes." "The kids painted on the walls, broke some plates, you know how it is. And now Mom and Dad are freaking out." Then the call waiting beeped. My dad was calling. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. When I picked up the phone, he was furious. "Your sister and her kids are destroying our house. This is your fault. You need to get over here right now or we're calling the police." I almost choked on my drink. "You're calling the police? On your daughter and grandchildren? Or are you calling because you're ready to report yourselves for fraud? Which is it?" There was silence on the other end. "You wanted her to stay with you," I said. "So she's your responsibility now. Don't call me again unless you have something reasonable to say." I hung up, but the wheels were already turning in my head. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. I called Karen back. "Pack your bags," I told her. "I have a little surprise planned." I didn't tell Karen much, just that I would take care of things. She didn't ask any questions. She was probably too overwhelmed with her 5 kids and my parents' cramped house. Meanwhile, I had something in mind that would shake things up for good. A few days later, I showed up unannounced at my parents' house. I could hear the chaos before I even got to the door: kids screaming, something falling to the floor, and my mom yelling about cleaning up the mess. I rang the bell, and my dad opened the door, his face already red. "What are you doing here?" he snapped. I grinned. "I brought you a gift. Something to help you out." My mom appeared behind him, frazzled and holding a broken plate. "If you're not here to fix this mess, don't bother, Dash." I held up my hand. "Trust me. You'll love this." I walked past them into the living room where Karen was trying to wrangle the kids. The oldest, who was 12, was jumping on the couch with markers in both hands, while the youngest had managed to spill cereal all over the floor. My parents looked like they were about to have a nervous breakdown. I placed my gift on the coffee table. It was a stack of papers. My dad squinted at it. "What's this?" "Evidence," I said casually. My mom froze. "What are you talking about?" "Let's just say I've been keeping track of some things over the years. Like the money you borrowed from me and never paid back. Or the fact that you dodged taxes by lying about your income." I leaned in a little. "Oh, and that little side business you were running under the table? Pretty sure the IRS would be interested in that." My father's face went pale. "You wouldn't." "Wouldn't I?" I shrugged. "See, after you kicked me out, I started thinking about all the ways you screwed me over. And well, I thought it might be time for you to face some consequences." Karen looked at me wide-eyed. "Wait, what is this about?" I gave her a reassuring look. "Don't worry, it's not about you. It's about them." My parents were scrambling now, trying to figure out what to say. My mom reached for the papers, but I pulled her back. "Relax. I'm not actually going to hand these in. Not yet." "What do you want?" My dad asked through clenched teeth. I smiled. Simple. You're going to let Karen and the kids stay here as long as they need to. You're not going to complain, and you're definitely not going to call me about it. If I hear one more word about this being my fault, or if you so much as breathe the wrong way in Karen's direction, these papers go straight to the authorities. The silence was deafening. Karen looked like she didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and my parents? They looked like they were about to have a heart attack. But just when I thought I'd won, Karen's oldest spoke up. What's that sound? We all froze. And then we heard it water. Running water. My mom's eyes widened and she ran into the hallway. The bathroom! She yelled. We followed her and found the youngest of Karen's children standing in the hallway, soaked from head to toe. The bathroom sink was overflowing and water was spilling onto the floor and into the carpet. My dad lost it. That's it. That's the last straw. They're out of here. I raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? Because I can still make a phone call. My dad glared at me, but didn't say another word. My mom grabbed a mop, muttering under her breath, and Karen started to clean up the mess. But the night wasn't over. While we were dealing with the flood, there was a knock at the door. My dad groaned. Now what? I opened it, and there was a delivery guy with a huge stack of pizzas. Delivery for the Smiths, he said. My dad looked confused. We didn't order any pizza. The delivery guy shrugged. It's already paid for. Karen suddenly burst out laughing. Oh my God, the kids must have ordered it. They were playing with my phone earlier. The look on my parents' faces was priceless. My dad looked like he was about to explode, and my mom just sank to the floor in defeat. I picked up one of the pizzas and handed it to Karen. Might as well make the best of it, I said. As I drove back to my apartment that night, I couldn't stop smiling. My parents thought they could manipulate and control me, but now they were stuck with the mess they'd made. And the best part? I wasn't done yet. A week later, Karen called to tell me that she was ready to move back into our parents' house. For the time being, she and the kids had been staying with a friend of hers, someone who apparently had no idea what it was like to have 5 kids under one roof. Karen said the friend had been nice, but after a few days of screaming kids and midnight tantrums, she was clearly losing patience. I'm moving back in with Mom and Dad, she said. Thanks for sticking up for me. At least now I know they won't kick me out. I reminded her of the agreement. If they give you any trouble, call me. Don't hesitate, she promised, and a few days later she moved back in with her little tornadoes. At first, everything seemed quiet. Karen texted me updates here and there, saying my parents were keeping their complaints to themselves. But I could tell she wasn't happy. Dad just hides in his office all day, she said in one text. Mom spends all her time cleaning up after the kids, and you can tell she's counting the seconds until bedtime. I wasn't surprised. They brought this on themselves, and I didn't feel an ounce of pity for them. About a week later, I received another call from Karen. This time her voice was shaky. You won't believe what just happened, she said. Try me, I replied. She took a deep breath. The police just showed up at the house. They're taking Dad away. That threw me. I reread the note a few times, trying to make sense of it. It wasn't just a petty jab, my dad had written it for a reason. But what did he mean by, "You'll regret this"? Karen watched me, her face tense. What does it say? I handed her the note. It's from Dad. Looks like he expected to get caught. She read it, her expression darkening. What does it mean? Is he threatening you? I don't know, I said. But it sounds like him, doesn't it? Always blaming someone else. My mom, who'd been quiet for once, suddenly snapped. That's because you pushed him too far. You humiliated him in his own home. Do you think he deserved it? I couldn't hold back. He deserved worse. You both manipulated me, used up my savings, and now you're acting like I'm the bad guy. If anything, I regret not doing something sooner. Karen stepped between us. Enough. This isn't helping. She turned to me. What are you going to do about it? I shrugged. What can I do? Dad's in jail, and whatever plan he's alluding to in that note is probably just him trying to scare me. He's not really in a position to do anything right now. But I was wrong. The next day I got a call from my landlord, my old landlord, from the apartment I'd moved out of before I went to live with my parents. We have a problem, he said. What kind of problem? I asked. You owe us damages. Damages? I frowned. I haven't lived there in months. The place was spotless when I left. That's not what the pictures show, he said, and then he sent me a set of photos. I opened them and stared, stunned. The apartment was trashed, holes in the walls, broken furniture, graffiti on the counters. That wasn't me, I said immediately. Well, someone listed your name and contact information when they checked in after you moved out, the landlord said. And unless you can prove otherwise, you're on the hook for this. My blood ran cold. Who checked in? He hesitated. Some guy named Steve. Said he was a friend of yours. Steve. My dad's drinking buddy. It didn't take a genius to put that together. My dad must have let Steve crash at the apartment after I left, knowing full well that I'd be the one held responsible. That was what the note meant. I'll take care of it, I told the landlord and hung up. I called Karen immediately and told her what had happened. She was as angry as I was. How can he be so petty? He's in jail, for God's sake. Yeah, but he still manages to mess with me, I said. Karen sighed. What are you going to do? I thought for a second. I'm not going to let him win. That's what I'm going to do. Over the next few days, I started digging through every piece of paper and record I had. If my dad was going to play games, I was going to make sure he lost. But just as I was getting ready to fight back, something unexpected happened. Karen called me late one night, her voice shaking. I think someone's watching the house. What do you mean? I asked. There's a car parked down the street. It's been there for hours, and I've seen the same car here a couple of times this week. I think it's following me. I grabbed my keys. I'm coming over. When I got there, I saw the car Karen was talking about, a beat-up sedan with tinted windows. It was parked a few doors down, the engine idling. I walked right up to it, trying to see who was inside, but the windows were too dark. As soon as I got close, the car took off, tires screeching. I watched it disappear down the street, my mind racing. This wasn't just about money anymore. Someone was sending a message, and I had a feeling it wasn't just my dad pulling the strings. After the car took off, I knew this wasn't just about my dad anymore. Someone was doing his dirty work, and I wasn't going to let it go. I gathered everything I had, proof of my dad's shady business dealings, his unpaid taxes, and even statements from people he'd ripped off over the years. Then I hired a private investigator to look into Steve, the guy behind the vandalism and stalking. It didn't take long for the investigator to connect the dots. Steve had been running errands for my dad even after his arrest, including trashing my old apartment and trying to intimidate Karen. Armed with all this evidence, I went to the police and gave them everything. The fallout was swift. Steve was arrested, and during questioning he spilled the beans, including how my father had orchestrated everything before he was taken into custody. The police used this to add more charges to my dad's case. This time he had no way out. With both of them out of the picture, things finally settled down. Karen stayed with my parents for a while, but eventually she found her own place. My mom didn't say much after it all happened. She knew she was skating on thin ice. A few months later, I was in my new place, living my own life again. Karen sent me a short note thanking me for standing up for her and her children and promising to repay me in any way she could. As for my dad, he was stuck in jail with more charges added to his sentence. Steve faced his own legal battles, and my mom stayed out of my business from then on. It wasn't the neatest ending, but it was enough. I felt free for the first time in years. Sometimes leaving isn't just about leaving, it's about finally standing up for yourself. A few weeks after everything was settled, Karen called me. She sounded lighter, happier. "We found a place," she said. "It's small, but it's ours. The kids are excited about decorating their rooms." I smiled. "That's great, Karen. You deserve it." For the first time in years, things felt normal. My parents hadn't contacted me since the fallout, and I was okay with that. I didn't need apologies or explanations anymore. I'd made peace with the fact that they weren't going to change. Karen and I stayed close, though. I visited her new home a few times, helping her put together furniture and hang shelves for the kids. Every time I saw them running around laughing, I felt a small sense of pride. It wasn't perfect, but they were better off. As for me, I finally started saving again. My new place was modest, but it was mine, and I didn't owe anyone anything. Sometimes the cleanest break isn't just about cutting ties, it's about building something better with the people who really matter.